Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief. For the second time in a week, OpenAI has stirred up a completely unnecessary and incredibly viral and virulent hornet's nest of commentary and critique by being too loose with their communication and failing to understand that they are no longer some quirky startup that can just talk flippantly. And if you think I sound annoyed about this, you are right that I am, because it has big implications for how this entire industry will interface with politics, markets, and culture in the year to come. I'm referring in this case to comments from OpenAI CFO Sarah Friar at the Wall Street Journal's Tech Live event in California on Wednesday. There were a number of different elements of the conversation. Friar rejected the idea of an AI bubble. She commented, "I don't think there's enough exuberance about AI. When I think about the actual practical implications and what it can do for individuals, we should keep running at it." She discussed the circularity critique of all these funding deals, saying, "I kind of reject the premise completely. We're all just building out full infrastructure today that allows more compute to come into the world. I don't view it as circular at all. A huge body of work in the last year has been to diversify that supply chain." Friar also deferred chatter about an IPO, denying that OpenAI is currently making preparations and saying that an IPO is, quote, "not on the cards right now." But none of that was the commentary that got picked up. Instead, it was this section, which the WSJ so crisply summed up as OpenAI wants federal backstop for new investments. For the sake of completeness, let's listen to the clip where Friar is talking about how OpenAI is compute constrained, always trying to build at the state of the art, always trying to use state of the art chips, and thus has to figure out how to finance all of it. Where the conversation starts is with a discussion of the difference in the dynamics of funding based on how long we find chips are actually valuable and useful for.
So the question is, how long does a chip remain on the frontier? Is it 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, or even longer? Now, in a world where we have no compute, or we're compute constrained, we are absolutely using chips that are like A100 equivalents that have been around like maybe 6, 7 years at this point in time. If that's the case, financing chips gets a lot easier. If the timeline on the chip stays short, that gets harder. And so this is where we're looking for an ecosystem of banks, private equity, maybe even governmental, the ways governments can come to bear.
Meaning like a federal subsidy or something?
Meaning like just first of all, the backstop, the guarantee that allows the financing to happen. That can really drop the cost of the financing, but also increase the loan to value, so the amount of debt that you can take on top of an equity portion for
some federal backstop for chip investment.
Exactly. And I think we're seeing that. I think the US government in particular has been incredibly forward-leaning, has really understood that AI is almost a national strategic asset, and that we really need to be thoughtful when we think about competition with, for example, China. Are we doing all the right things to grow our AI ecosystem as fast as possible?
So those are the comments. And what's important here is that it was Friar herself who introduced the word backstop. In other words, this wasn't an overzealous headline writer putting words in her mouth, which, as we've seen plenty of times, can happen. Now, some folks tried to give Friar the benefit of the doubt and explain what she was trying to say. Lulu Chang-Meservey, who is a PR leader and commentator, wrote, "Unfortunate comms fumble to use the baggage-laden word backstop. In the video, Friar is clearly reaching for the right word to describe government support. Could have gone with public-private partnership or collaboration across finance, industry, and government, as we've done for large infrastructure investments in the past. Instead, she kind of stumbles into using backstop, which was then repeated by the Wall Street Journal interviewer and then became the headline." Now, Friar herself and the OpenAI newsroom later sought to clarify, writing on LinkedIn, "OpenAI is not seeking a government backstop for our infrastructure commitments. I used the word backstop and it muddied the point. As the full clip of my answer shows, I was making the point that American strength in technology will come from building real industrial capacity, which requires the private sector and government playing their part." Unfortunately, this was not one that could be easily walked back from. Macro research firm founder Julian Bridgen writes, "I smell a rat. Why does Sam Altman need the taxpayer to guarantee their debt if they're going to make hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars? Has he just done a cash analysis and realized he's cash flow short?" Entrepreneur and investor Sam Lessin writes, "A pre-bailout bailout. I appreciate the balls to ask, and what a sign of the times." He followed up, "Lol, no crap that a government backstop will drop your cost of capital. By the way, I would love one of these too if we were handing them out." Just about a week ago, finance commentator Luke Groman wrote, "When the too-big-to-fail banks were doing stuff like this prior to the GFC, in this case referring to off-balance sheet debt to finance a meta data center, Grumman continues, they knew at some level they would get bailed out when the S hit the fan. Please timestamp this. If and when this goes pear-shaped, the hyperscalers will get federal bailouts just like the too-big-to-fail banks did. Luke then followed that up with a headline from the Wall Street Journal saying, wow, only 5 days elapsed from the time I speculated this would happen eventually. Former White House AI advisor Dean Ball writes, Friar is describing a worse form of regulatory capture than anything we have seen proposed in any U.S. legislation, state or federal, I am aware of. A firm lobbying for this outcome is literally, rather than impressionistically, lobbying for regulatory capture. Investor Jeff Park writes, OpenAI is a nonprofit that now wants a federal backstop guarantee for all new CapEx investments, but also wants to IPO at $1 trillion next year for its exclusive shareholders. And you wonder why Mamdani was elected in a landslide. And indeed, what is inescapable from this, and what was clearly completely ill-considered by Friar and OpenAI, was the context into which these comments were going to come. Finn Murphy writes, for all the tech people complaining about Mamdani, I would like to point out that a federal backstop for unfettered risk capital deployment into data centers for the benefit of OpenAI shareholders is actually a much worse form of socialism than free buses. Nemo on X writes, not sure this was the best time to soft launch a future bailout, and Spectrum Markets president Brent Donnelly captured the mood with his simple tweet, F off. Now, one thing that's important to note is that this was not just Friar out on her own. Altman on Tyler Cowen said something similar. In that interview, also published yesterday, he said, at some level, when something gets sufficiently huge, whether or not they are on paper, the federal government is kind of the insurer of last resort, as we've seen in various financial crises and insurance companies screwing things up. I guess given the magnitude of what I expect AI economic impact to look like, I do think the government ends up as the insurer of last resort. But I think I mean that in a different way than you mean that, and I don't expect them to actually be writing the policies in the way they maybe do for nuclear. MECE Mike writes, this MF is now pretty directly taunting us that he's becoming too big to fail and we're the backstop. Now, as you heard from Friar's comments, there is clearly an assessment of global geopolitics here. For OpenAI, they see very clearly that AI is a geopolitical issue and that the US government is treating it as such. And so removing the word backstop and trying to get at what Friar was actually trying to say, there is inevitably going to be some sort of relationship between the US government and the industry with this much geopolitical relevance. This was reinforced by the fact that these comments came on the same day of comments from Nvidia's Jensen Huang, who put in the starkest terms yet that he thinks that China will win the AI race with the United States. In an interview at the Financial Times Future of AI Summit on Wednesday, he plainly said China is going to win the AI race. He said that the West is being held back by cynicism, adding we need more optimism. Perhaps even more than a negative attitude, Huang believes the US is being limited by regulatory burden. He noted that state-based rulemaking means AI companies will need to deal with 50 new regulations. In contrast, Huang pointed to new Chinese energy subsidies for running domestically made chips, commenting, power is free. Now, one of Nvidia's big advantages over Chinese-made chips is energy efficiency. But earlier this week, Beijing introduced a 50% electricity subsidy for data centers using Chinese-made chips, making that advantage irrelevant. Now, these comments, of course, come shortly after President Trump shut the door on sending Nvidia's Blackwell chips to China, even in a downgraded form, meaning that it's possible to read these comments as frustrated and/or self-interested. At the same time, Huang has consistently presented this as the inevitable outcome of chip bans all year. After the story started to get traction, Nvidia and Huang released a clarifying statement where Jensen commented, as I have long said, China is nanoseconds behind America in AI. It's vital that America wins by racing ahead and winning developers worldwide. Many people got that these two sets of comments were interrelated. DC Investor writes, OpenAI now wants a federal funding backstop for their data center build-out, and Jensen talking much more openly about how we will lose to China if we don't rapidly build out our energy capacity. It's becoming very obvious that what appears like broken capitalism circular investment between these firms is actually implementation of a national policy priority. They are trying to make it look like it's being done through the free market, but this is very likely orchestrated in ways that are not being broadly discussed yet. TLDR, AI is likely not a bubble, it's a free market Manhattan project. A couple of weeks ago, gmoney.eth wrote, if the AI race is considered an issue of national security and winner take all, then one needs to only look at military spending to see that it won't slow down anytime soon. The first meaningful downtick wasn't until the Cold War ended. Every dollar spent on AI can be justified because the spoils of winning are so high. Gmoney followed that up just yesterday, writing, if you view this as a race of USA versus China, there is literally no ceiling on the money that will be spent to secure AGI/ASI. And everyone in power, both sides of the aisle in the US and leadership in China, will be willing to sacrifice the lives of most of their citizens through inflation to win this race. So this can't be like the housing crisis which started in 2007 with the collapse of Countrywide and culminated more than 2 years later with the collapse of Lehman. If we have an AI spending collapse for 2 years, we will be toast. So this bailout will happen in a matter of weeks, if not days. The interesting thing here is AI execs are now saying the quiet part out loud. They're tipping their hands. They're telling us we need ungodly amounts of money in order to have a shot. Usually when the government will print or ease, they call it something slightly less obvious. We got that with TARP, QE, Operation Twist, SIVB bailout, or whatever other alphabet soup bailouts we've gotten over the last 20 years. Using this as a backdrop, the Mamdani victory really makes sense last night. If financial execs got bailouts in 2008, and AI execs are already calling for bailouts before they even need it, then why shouldn't the average citizen get the bailout? Now, at least one OpenAI voice said that they didn't think that government backstopping should be the policy. Rune wrote on Wednesday night, "I don't think the USG should backstop data center loans or funnel money to Nvidia's 90% gross margin business. Instead, they should make it really easy to produce energy with subsidies and better rules. Infrastructure that's beneficial for all and puts us at parity with China." Finance a lot pointed out why the average American is unlikely to be compelled by the idea of winning the AI race. They wrote, "Have they defined what winning the AI race is? Is it the first country to reach 25% unemployment?" Commentator Connor Sen points out, "The epic political backlash coming on the other side of this cycle is so obvious for anyone over the age of 40. We turned banks into the bad guys for 15 years. Good luck to the AI folks. We're subsidizing the companies who are going to take your job, and you'll pay higher electricity prices as they try to do so." And this brings me to my issue with all of this, and why, despite being in the AI industry, I am doubling down on this particular critique. We are operating in a world right now where there are two entirely separate economies. There is the AI economy that is booming, and there is the rest of the economy, which is, putting it charitably, not. Outside of our little corner of the world, some of the biggest political debates going on are whether the government is going to continue to pay for food stamps. Meanwhile, the average age of first-time U.S. home buyers has surged in the last 3 years to 40, from a historical average closer to 30, and New York City just elected a socialist mayor. Now, you might say, is it really OpenAI's job to have to think about all of this context when they make statements? They're just a scrappy startup after all. No, they are not. And OpenAI, if you are listening, please hear this. You are no longer some wonderkin startup from Silicon Valley that can afford to be flippant. Every media outlet in the United States covers every comment out of any OpenAI leader's mouth like they are comments from the White House or a Senate leader or some other wildly significant actor. You don't get to, on the one hand, work incredibly hard to position yourself as the most essential company of the future, and then not understand the communications implications of that role. The time where you guys get to just show up and speak loosely in ill-considered terms is over, unless you want to just doom the AI industry to intense political retribution for years. I'm sorry, but the reality is now you have a responsibility not just to your own company, but to everyone else in this industry. And you can't do this. You can't show up on Brad Gerstner's podcast and get snide and condescending, even if I understand where the frustration comes from. You can't show up at the Wall Street Journal and start bandying about terms and concepts like government backstops. When you do that, you're screwing yourselves and you're screwing the rest of us. So please, I am imploring you, start to appreciate the role that you are in. You are no longer a startup, not when it comes to communications, and you don't get to act like it anymore. That's going to do it for today's AI Daily Brief. Until next time, peace.